And now, after further review, a Clemson student's perspective on sports.
It's AFR time, baby. Let's get up. Let's get rolling.
That's right. Personal foul. 69. Offense. He was giving them the business. He played it down.
Okay, so if Trevor Lawrence isn't either the second or third string quarterback in the fall, I shave my head and you get a tattoo?
Well, you got to get a head tattoo. You got to shave your
get a head tattoo. Now we're talking.
And get a head tattoo.
And a personal foul on number 99 of the defense. After he tackled the quarterback, he's giving them business down there. That's a 15-yard penalty.
And now your host, Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Well, good evening, everyone. AFR is back on your radio. Jay Smith and Evan McDowell coming to you live from the Priority One Security Studios at WCCP. Bradley Kendall is not with us this week. He decided that an intramural basketball game took precedent, trying to get his team to advance in the playoffs. Unfortunate as that may be, Evan, the show must go on. So let's dive into everything we're going to talk about this week after further review.
It's tourney time. We've got March Madness, the basketball tournament coming up, but we've also got a little bit of a football tournament, I think, that we want to talk about maybe a little bit later on, just for the sake of entertainment and conversation.
Referencing a Bleacher Report article that came out earlier today, projecting what a 16-team college football tournament would look like for this coming year. Interesting stuff. I think, though, first segment of tonight's show, going to talk a little bit of jersey history, specifically Clemson football jersey history. Now, Clemson, like a lot of schools, is pretty traditional, Evan, in what colors, what kind of designs they use when it comes to their jerseys, the logos. I know Dabo Swinney, I think the most, call it controversial, even though there's really no controversy around it, but the biggest thing that he's done to the jerseys since he's been here is the tiger paw on the shoulder pads. I think he started that in either 2014 or 2016.
That and probably the once-a-year purple uniforms.
I think the purple uniform started in either 2006 or
that was a Dabo thing.
Oh, it was
well,
a Dabo
no,
thing?
Not the purple jerseys themselves, just the only wearing them for Military Appreciation Day. Because back throughout the mid 2000s and like when CJ Spiller and all those guys were here, it wouldn't be that uncommon to see for an away game like a white jersey, purple pants, or for a home game you might go like purple jersey, orange pants, that sort of thing. But then Dabo said, no, we're only going to wear the purple, like the all purple for Military Appreciation Day, and the orange pants only come out for championships now.
Well, Will Vandervoort of Clemson Insider had a pretty interesting piece that he wrote up November of this past year that was focusing on Clemson's orange breeches tradition and where that came from and why they wear it for championship games, because now the mantra that you see on social media when you get to about that time later in the season, is, championship breeches or orange.
That was a Dabo thing,
yes,
correct?
That was a Dabo thing. And it was interesting reading through this piece, talking about how Dabo really, he said that the team was he said there was an identity conflict when he started back as the head coach in 2008. Actually, this is a quote, we were chameleons. I really didn't know what we were. I really didn't, end quote, in reference to, they just kind of had players coming up to him, asking them what they could wear. I mean, the uniform combination in those days kind of varied with the orange and white. Then you had the white and white, the all solid orange. You had white and orange, you had purple and white, you had all purple, you had orange over purple, you had white and purple, you had purple and orange. I mean, 3 colors and I'm already confused.
Yeah, you didn't know what you were getting week in and week out. It was like a very simplified version of what Oregon does.
And what Dabo said, what was really interesting is that at Alabama, there's no discussion. I mean, it's so traditional.
You only got 2 colors.
Yeah, you got 2 colors there. It's so traditional that he talked about all the wasted energy every week about players asking, can we wear this? Can we wear this? And it's like, well, let's just worry about what matters. We got to win the football game. Now, obviously, to that point, the orange breeches tradition, I think, has caught on with not only the players, but also the fan base. And it kind of gets people excited for the end of the season, especially the, whatever championship game it is, whether it's for a division championship or the state championship or the ACC championship or the national championship. But I don't know. I mean, you think that the uniforms for particular, and this extends beyond Clemson, you think the uniforms really play that big a role? Because you see schools like Oregon who go all out, Baylor, who go all out on their uniforms, and then there's other schools like Penn State where or Notre Dame, where you really don't have much variety.
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, I think it depends on where you are. Because if I'm a kid from the Pacific Northwest and I got my options narrowed down to Cal, Washington State, and Oregon, and I'm making my decisions solely on a uniform, then yeah, I'm going to Oregon because Cal and Washington State both have the same basic 2 colors and uniforms. But I think it's interesting if you look at the recent teams and of success, recent national champions or playoff contenders, their uniforms aren't that special. Clemson's uniforms aren't that special. We basically got it narrowed down to orange and white and purple once a year. Alabama, crimson and white. LSU, whose uniforms don't change a whole lot.
Yep.
Ohio State, mostly red and white. I mean, for these teams that are this good, it really doesn't matter. But somewhere like Oregon, I guess it does.
The only real variety you see in Clemson's uniforms are the Tiger Paw helmet stickers on the back,
which aren't even as prevalent now as they were 10 years ago.
And
they're not as prevalent most places as they were 10 years ago. I don't know why that was a bigger thing 10 years ago than it is now.
I think it's interesting because I actually had a chance to ask DeAndre Overton today after class because I was curious. I was asking, I was like, so what exactly do these helmet stickers represent? Is it an individual achievement related to performance? Is it a team award? You see some guys, the whole back of the helmet's covered. You see some with only a few.
Well, and then there's some places like Ohio State and Florida State that it's a much bigger deal to get a Buckeye or a Tomahawk on your helmet than it is to get a Tiger Paw here at Clemson. And Alabama doesn't even do anything like that. So there's a lot of difference.
Oregon, they don't have any sort of helmet. I mean, it's really interesting to see which schools take that route. But Overton's response was that it usually related to an individual achievement that the coaches were largely responsible for, like establishing the parameters. He said, so, we may, as a wide receiver, if you've got 4 catches in a game or if you have 2 big plays, and that's all determined by the coaching staff. But I think that's really interesting because besides that small little variation, there's, Clemson's largely very traditional in its mindset of jerseys, except like we've talked about the solid purple for IPTE Day, Military Appreciation, which I absolutely love. I think, in all honesty, I think the solid purple is the best looking uniform that Clemson wears. I know a lot of people are going to say, nah, man, that solid orange looks the best. But
I'm one of those people.
Oh, I got to disagree. I think the all purple is just awesome.
No, the solid purple is special. Like it's a beautiful uniform, and I think it's become more special now that we only wear it once a year. Because I think if you were to look back 15 years ago at, if they got to the top of the hill and the team was wearing an orange jersey and purple pants, like, oh, cool. But all orange is definitely much better. And now that we only do that for championships, like that makes that much more special. So these principles that Dabo has kind of instilled as it relates to the uniform itself, I think has made these uniform combinations more special than they were previously, no doubt.
I think another interesting nugget, this was from Clemson Sports Talk. This was an article with a former SID at Clemson, and he was quoted, he was talking about in this article that there were 3 or 4 different theories about how Clemson kind of got their colors and the mascot Tigers, and there's obviously a lot of people that have different ideas, and he was saying that they're not really sure we'll ever get down to the bottom of which is the actual one, but in his opinion, he liked to go with the Walter Riggs story and how he was Clemson's first football coach. He graduated from Auburn, and that the players loved him, they admired him, respected him, and since he helped get the football program started, they paid tribute to Riggs by naming their mascot the Tigers and using orange and blue as their original colors. I think it was not until sometime later that they switched over to purple. I don't know. I mean,
well, you know why the switch to purple was made, right? At least how I've always heard as the story goes. I knew the original colors were blue and white or blue and orange, excuse me. But the story that I've always heard in terms of like how the blue turned to the purple was that the blue uniforms went through the washing machine so much that the colors became faded, and when blue fades, it looks more purple. So that's why we now have orange and purple instead of still orange and blue. That's what I've always heard.
See, it's really interesting too because, I mean, after doing some pretty deep digging, apparently, and I don't know if this is completely accurate, but apparently the original diplomas for Clemson were red and blue. And so the reason that it ended up becoming orange was similar to what you said, with the blue becoming the purple with the washing. It faded into that orange look. And I don't know. I mean, there's so many different stories about how it came into being, and
I know a lot of it has to do with Heisman too, right? Like John Heisman coming from like Auburn and Princeton, like both of those teams are Tigers and their colors are orange and navy blue, and so don't we draw a lot of inspiration from those two programs because of our connections via the same coach kind of thing?
Yeah, and I think this was fairly recently, pretty far down in terms of the history of the program. In 1958, when Clemson was going to play LSU in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, obviously televisions were black and white. There weren't any color sets. So the TV execs at NBC went to Clemson and asked them to wear a darker color because they wore orange and LSU liked to wear white at home. So because they were afraid nobody would be able to tell who was Clemson and who was LSU. So they didn't have a lot of time to think about it, and they ended up ordering a dark blue jersey. And so it was a blue jersey with white numerals, broad numbers, and an orange helmet with a stripe, and they became known as the Sugar Bowl Blues. And they actually, I think, used that again because they lost to LSU 7-0 in that game. But then in 1962, some players talked Coach Howard into pulling out the sugar blue jerseys, and they wore them against South Carolina, and they won that game 20-17. So some interesting history. I don't think we're ever going to go back to blue uniforms.
I was going to say, how cool would it be if we still not like full time or anything, but what if I don't know what the circumstances would have to be, but if we just brought out a nice all blue uniform, or blue and white, I guess would be historically accurate too. But just wore like a blue jersey and white pants. Maybe only when we play in the Sugar Bowl or the anniversary of the Sugar Bowl, whenever we have a game on that date. I don't know, but I think that'd be pretty cool just for, it'd be like a retro uniform. Like you see a lot of these pro teams, I guess, more so than college, but they'll whip out, the retro uniforms. I know like the Pacers have a really cool one with like the yellow and the red, and the Grizzlies when they have the kind of like their throwback. Like all these retro uniforms are really cool, and that's what makes it special to wear them once or twice throughout the season.
Except for the Steelers. The Steelers retro uniforms look
that bumblebee, that hideous bumblebee outfit.
That is the worst.
I don't even think that's retro.
It is. I'm pretty sure
they used to wear that full time back in the day. And people in Pittsburgh didn't go blind from that?
I want to say that the bumblebee uniforms were theirs from several decades ago. You're right, though.
It was a horrible idea and should have been permanently retired. But like you said, the idea of like a retro uniform or a throwback day, I think that'd be cool if we went back to blue just
And you're
once.
more likely to see that from Clemson than you are to see some radically, like people were talking a couple years, we got to see the chrome helmet. And it's like, you're not going to see a chrome helmet. You're just not going to see it.
You think eventually, though?
You know what I really, honestly, would love to see? And I don't think it'll happen because the Tiger Paw is traditionally white on athletic. I'd love to see a white helmet with an orange Tiger Paw.
Well, those are the only two colors that the Tiger Paw is allowed to be.
Yes, it can't
either
be
orange
purple.
or white.
Yeah, it can't be purple.
So I think a white helmet is doable.
I think it'd look good.
I think it would too, because the Tiger Paw would be orange, and you wear that with.
Because even with those all white uniforms, you still got an orange helmet. Right now.
See, what would you rather wear the white helmet with the all white road uniforms, or would you rather wear the white helmet at home and go white, orange jersey, white pants?
I think it would look really cool if the entire jersey, everything was white. I'm talking helmet, I'm talking, the pants, the shirt, the shoes, all that's white, and the only orange on the entire outfit is Tiger Paws. That's it.
Yeah, that would look good.
That would look pretty cool.
That would be, so I think that would be a good combination for if it was like a championship game and you were technically the road team. I know we've established the orange breeches for a championship, but
that's not going away.
I know.
I don't think that's going away.
But the all orange is a good look, and the all orange is a good championship look when you're the higher ranked or the home team. So
we won all orange in a championship though.
We did against Bama once. Yeah, over the past 3 times that we played Bama, because we were the higher ranked team the second time. The first time. I'm sorry, we were number 1. We
lost.
Yeah, the first
both games that we've beaten them in, we've worn white tops and orange bottoms. Yes,
correct. Or 2 out of the 3 games. No, you're right. We won in the white jerseys. We lost in the all orange. But did we not wear all orange in the Cotton Bowl? Because I'm pretty sure if you're the higher ranked team, you're technically the home team. So we would have been the home team against Notre Dame.
Possibly, yeah. I was specifically thinking against Alabama, but
right, yeah. So we would have done it once against Bama, and I think that's a good look for a championship. But I also wouldn't want to waste an all-white, really cool-looking uniform on a road game at Texas A&M week 2 of the season.
Well, this actually kind of diverged this conversation into another vein because we were talking about this before we came on air, and we kind of had differing opinions about this. I like, and Muschamp, I know, is a big script fan. He likes the script lettering, obviously at Florida, and then now he's done it at Carolina. I like the scripts writing on the side of the helmets for USC more than the block C with the Gamecock logo. I know, Evan, you're not a huge fan of the script writing or the logo in general.
Well, we both agreed that we hate the general C logo with the chicken in it. I don't think anyone really likes that logo.
Truthfully, it never looked like a chicken to me. I could never tell what I was looking at.
Especially when you watch a home game like on TV at Williams-Brice and you see like their midfield logo at the angle of the camera too. I still get to see, but it has never looked like. It took me forever to realize
I didn't know where
that the head of the chicken was at the end of that skinny little neck thing.
Yes, no.
I thought that whole thing was the head 100%, for a while.
I thought that was the head too, and somebody told me, no, that's like the tiny little beak down there.
And he's like straining to screech or whatever, I guess. But no, I mean, when Carolina unveiled the script font and their whole kind of rebranding, which they've done a lot of rebranding over the last couple of years, and I think most Carolina fans probably aren't a huge fan of it. I could be wrong, but just the small sample size that I've gauged on social media just doesn't seem to be huge proponents of this overhaul of rebranding that U of SC has done. Yeah. And a lot of people were saying when the script font came out on the side of the helmet, because I like the idea, and I like their garnet helmet. That way it's not black. I mean, I like the white helmet, but the black helmet doesn't look good.
The cream off-white helmets were...
I like the white helmet, because they have a white helmet and we don't.
It was not a white helmet, though. It was cream. It was ugly. That cream helmet was ugly.
It was better than the black. I never liked the black helmet. I know they don't wear it very often.
They don't. I don't mind that I just never liked the cream color.
And the garnet helmet for some, and it probably because I've grown up despising the color garnet. The garnet helmet does not go very well with the garnet jerseys. Like if they have a home game and their helmet's the same color as their jerseys,
I would agree
for some reason that just doesn't look as good as the orange on orange. But the script font, it looked like the Chick-fil-A font. That's what a lot of people were making fun of when it came out.
Well, to wrap up this conversation, because we got to cut to break, but to wrap this up, I'm serious. Do you think that, because I do, uniforms and especially how they're marketed to recruits, do you think they're affecting, at least subliminally, where these kids are deciding to? I mean, is that not part of what's drawing these kids in? Because I definitely think there's something to that.
Oh, yeah, that's certainly a part of it. I mean, you see a recruit whenever he's in town, one of the first things that he does to let us know that he's in town is post a picture in the uniform.
So what's it say about Clemson that they can stick to traditional uniforms and still bring in world-class talent? I think it says...
Well, I mean, it's not I mean, the uniform, I would think, is a very small part of the recruiting process, especially at a place like Clemson. Like with the coaches, the continuity, the facilities we have, those all mean a lot more than the uniform itself. But I don't know, there's something, I mean, it's the same at like a Penn State or a USC who haven't changed their uniforms in ever. Yeah. And they still, recruit pretty good talent. It's
Alabama.
I mean, it's
Alabama.
Alabama, exactly. Like Alabama gets great talent and their uniforms are awful.
Yeah, all good points. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting discussion. Obviously, the history of the Clemson jersey has a couple different, unique nuggets relating to how it all came to be. But we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking about that 16-team playoff. That's next.
Everyone has someone in their lives that could use a little surprise, a little pick-me-up. You want to deliver those smiles, but who has the time? School, work, and more. Try Urban Nirvana's online gift certificate. Buy and print it right from your own computer. A great way to treat your wife for making all those tailgate preparations, your college student for all the hard work, or mom, just because. Online purchase and print from your computer. Only at urbannirvana.com.
Hey guys, Gary Bryant here. I'd like to tell you about a new store in downtown Easley. Everybody is talking about Plum Home Decor and Gift Boutique at 115 West Main Street. And if you haven't visited us yet, come see why. With beautiful and unique items like frames, vases, pottery, jewelry, candles, pillows, and more, you'll find that plum-perfect gift for any occasion. Find us on Facebook and Instagram at Plum on Main. Plum Home Decor on Main Street, downtown Easley. Locally owned and operated by Clemson grads. Go Tigers.
Samantha Porter, environmental educator, ready to encourage you. Pizza boxes, shipping and packaging boxes, appliance boxes are all examples of cardboard that is easy to recycle. Did you know that every school in Anderson County recycles their cardboard? And you can too. Did you know that cardboard generates the most recycling dollars, which allows our convenience centers to remain open and free to our residents? Anderson County Solid Waste is here to serve and help. 260-1001.
Absolute Waste Management specializes in waste removal services for bulky, unwanted items like old furniture, appliances, construction, debris, and more. Also offering clean-out services for evictions, rental properties, estate liquidations, and foreclosures. Call or text 864-266-7131 for your free, no-obligation quote today. Don't wait. Make the call. Schedule an appointment and say bye to the junk. 864-266-7131 or online at absolutewastemgmt.com.
I'm a donut nut, I'm a donut nut, I'm a nut for Krispy Kreme.
Hi, I'm Glenn Reese with Krispy Kreme Donut Company in Anderson and Spartanburg. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Drop by for a delicious donut and a cup of coffee. And remember, raise money for your club, church, or group of worthy cause. Sell Krispy Kreme donuts. Call Anderson and Spartanburg Krispy Kreme.
I'm a donut nut, I'm a donut nut, I'm a nut for Krispy Kreme.
Former Clemson national champion Deshaun Watson wants to play football with you. Attend the Deshaun Watson Football Pro Camp. Kids in grades 1 through 8 can join former Clemson star on May the 18th at Clemson University's indoor-outdoor football practice facility. Register at watsoncamp.com. Deshaun will be on site and joined by area coaches to provide small group instruction on football fundamentals and fun. It's Deshaun Watson Football Pro Camp. Visit watsoncamp.com today.
The Blue Heron in Clemson has weeknight specials for everyone. Monday night, enjoy a 3-course gourmet meal for only $30. Tuesday is sushi night. Buy one, get one half price. Join them on Wino Wednesday for $10 select bottles. Thursday night, enjoy a burger and a beer for $10 at the downstairs bar. The Blue Heron, locally owned and operated. 405 College Avenue in Clemson. Call 864-653-3354 for reservations. Visit BlueHeronFood.com for menu and more information.
When it's time to replace your roof, there are so many things to consider, from the type of roof you have to the many types and styles of shingles. Gilstrap Roofing understands how each part of our roofing system works together to give you a beautiful and watertight barrier. Don't trust the one thing that really protects your home to just anyone. Gilstrap Roofing has been covering the upstate for 4 generations. Proven, experienced roofers for your home or business. Gilstrap Roofing, 2691232.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks for spending your Monday evening with us. Really appreciate it. Going into what we led off the show with, Evan's line about the Bleacher Report Article 16 team playoff, what that would look like. And we kind of talked about this during the break. We both agree that the teams they selected probably creates the most intrigue rather than the outcomes of the matchups themselves. Because obviously in this scenario, you know, you're cutting into the regular season. You're going to have to remove potentially a conference game, but more likely those non-conference games that nobody really cares about unless you're on the team.
Or the small team that has to come get throttled just for $1 million.
I mean, you know, it's great to have a game day, but when you're playing Furman, it's kind of hard to get
excited for the Paladins.
Yeah. Nothing against the Paladins, though. No, plenty of people that go to Furman. Great school. But, yeah.
Apparently a good basketball school, too. Or at least they were.
But no, you're probably going to lose those matchups, which would greatly affect those smaller schools and not in a good way. So, again, not likely to happen. There are some rumors, and there's a little bit of momentum towards an 8-team playoff. I'm not sure, Evan, and I just don't know if we are deep enough into this 4-team experiment to jump off the end of the diving board into the 8-team waters yet.
No, and officially we're not either. I was talking to one of the Orange Bowl committee members when I was working the game in Miami, and he said that, you know, because obviously they have a stake in it because the Orange Bowl this year was a playoff game. And I can't remember what year he said the contract with, I don't remember if it was ESPN or if it's the actual like playoff committee's contract, but we're locked in for at least another 5 to 10 years, I think, under the current format. So if it's ever going to change, it's definitely not going to be anytime soon, just because there are too many hoops to jump through. If you wanted to change it from a 4 to 18 playoff right now, it'd be virtually impossible.
And here's the thing, too, with this idea of a 16-team playoff. You're going to feature every major conference champion, including your group of 5. That, yes, is going to give you some interesting matchups at the end of the season. You're going to have a lot of blue bloods playing each other year in, year out. But you're eliminating, Evan, a lot of the intrigue that occurs at the end of the season, where it's like, is this conference going to get in, or is this conference going to get in? Or is this conference going to get in 2 teams, or is this conference not going to get in at all?
Yeah, and as interesting as I found this article, and especially some of the predictions, which I know you said we're about to get into, after reading the whole thing and getting to the end, the whole thing seemed like a big waste of time to me. And because we'll get into it, and we'll go through and detail how they predicted this tournament to go. But I mean, I think I'm in the at least the outspoken minority in that I like the 4-team layout, and I think it's fine. I don't think it's broken. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I think a lot of people are griping about it because
they're team number 5 and team number 6.
Because we've seen the same 2 teams battle it out for 3-4 years in a row now, essentially. I mean, listen, Clemson and Alabama have owned the national championship for the last 4 years, even in the year when Clemson and Alabama faced off in the semifinal. It's just a fact. So, yeah, I mean, you spend all this time, you create this 16-team field, you go with these matchups, and at the end of the day, 99.9% of the people out there are going to say, well, you'd be a fool not to have Clemson playing Alabama in a national championship. It doesn't matter who else is in the field. I mean, Clemson-Bama versus the field, Clemson-Bama.
Right. Duh. And I guess obviously our perspectives are skewed being Clemson students. We love being in the national championship 3 out of the last 4 years. And I'm trying to imagine a scenario in which, let's say it wasn't Alabama and Clemson that were the 2 best teams. Because people can gripe about seeing the same game 4 years in a row all they want. But when it's clearly the 2 best teams in the sport, I don't see how you can have a problem with that. Because otherwise, you're going to have a team that does deserve to be there and a team that maybe doesn't deserve to be there, maybe got lucky on their way there.
But here's the thing, right? Okay, the first 2 games were fantastic. I'm talking all time. I don't think, Clemson fan base bias aside, those first 2 national championship games were all-time classics. I mean, it was the first ever rematch in a national championship game. You had so many intriguing storylines surrounding those 2 games, and I think those 2 games are some of the best college football games that have ever been played. The last 2, the most recent 2 with the semifinal.
No, that's what those last 2 games between Clemson and Alabama have been.
Okay,
just
I was about to say,
boring. No, the first 2 games, I agree with you. First 2 games were great.
This past game, as a Clemson fan, was great to watch, but by the 3rd quarter, I was sitting down.
Oh, yeah.
And the game before that, where we were kind of trounced down in New Orleans, like, if those are the 2 teams that you're going to see in the championship every year, at least give me something competitive. And the last 2 years, it's kind of been like...
It hasn't been. 24-6 in the Sugar Bowl and 44-16 in the national championship.
No.
Neither of those would classify as close games.
And they felt a lot more one-sided than they ended up being. The final score suggested. I felt like Clemson got beaten more soundly in New Orleans than the final score led most people to believe. Same with Clemson and Alabama this past year in the Bay Area.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they weren't close games. But again, they're still the 2 best teams in college football, and we've agreed before that Clemson probably isn't 30 points better than Alabama last year. They had a really good day, and Alabama debatably had a really bad day.
They played probably the best game in Clemson football history. They played the best
up there
football game.
For sure.
Clemson football history.
So that I guess that was my thing with the 16 teams. Like I said, I like the 4 teams. It's not going anywhere anytime soon because it's not that easy. They can't change it like that. So I'm fine with the way it is. But let's say that as a Clemson student, if Ohio State and Georgia are clearly the two best teams in college football. They play each other 4 years in a row.
Sure.
I'm probably going to get tired of that too if I'm the third, fourth, fifth place team because I feel like I deserve a chance.
Oh, yeah.
When in reality, maybe I don't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the fatigue of watching the same. I mean, you see in the NFL with the Patriots. You know, you see it in all sorts of sports. You know, any professional sport. There's usually one or two
Golden
teams.
State Warriors.
Yeah. And there's usually one or two teams that dominate.
But I feel like it hasn't been one team dominating. Like, yes, Alabama's clearly been the best team in college football over the last decade, but we've swapped national championships recently, and even before Alabama beat us the first time, there was a Florida State national championship in there. Auburn was a couple of years before that. So it's not quite as big of a dynasty or as bad of a problem, I guess, as New England or Golden State.
If Clemson were playing different teams in the national championship and Alabama, like if each team were playing different squads and they were playing each other, I think there would be less fatigue than there has been these last 4 years.
I think there'd be more.
Really?
Because with the Patriots winning so many Super Bowls recently, it's not like they've been beating the same team every time. And it's been just as annoying.
The NFL is a completely different.
It is,
and it's really hard to compare the two. Yes, completely.
But still, the Patriots have won a whole bunch of Super Bowls recently, all against different teams.
Yeah,
and it's been annoying every time as a non-Patriots fan.
Not wrong. But let's get back to this original article here. So, based off of what they were able to compile, their predicted conference winners for 2019, the ACC were Clemson. The American was Cincinnati. Big 12 was Oklahoma. Big 10, Ohio State. Conference USA, North Texas. Go Mean Green. Mid-American was Western Michigan. Mountain West was Utah State. The Pac-12 had Washington. SEC, Alabama. And then the Sun Belt, App State. And that gives you 6 at-large bids, which would all come from the Power 5. So they had LSU, Michigan, Notre Dame, Texas, Georgia, and A&M as your at-large. Interesting, Evan, that they selected 3 SEC teams. Not surprised.
I'm not surprised either, but just looking at and this is like, if you were going to expand the playoff, this is why it shouldn't go past 8, because I'm sorry, in a playoff to determine the best college football team in the country, it makes sense to put like Texas A&M, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Michigan, LSU. It makes sense to put those teams in that conversation. But don't come at me with, Western Michigan might mess around and win this thing, or Utah State or Appalachian State. Like,
see, I have a bigger problem with 4 SEC. That's a quarter of the field.
Well, I mean, the best teams are the best teams. You can't help what conference they're in, because we know they're not in the Pac-12. We know they're not in the ACC.
But guess what that does? It completely delegitimizes the whole point of conferences. Why even play in a conference?
Well, and I think if you are going to expand the playoff past 8 teams, you might see some conference realignment just for the sake of fairness.
Possibly.
Because again, if you expand it, let's say you expanded to 8 teams, and it's the same 8 teams every year, Clemson, Alabama, let's say it's Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, just because we feel bad for them right now. LSU, Notre Dame, and Texas A&M. Like, if it's those 8 teams making the playoff every year, it's still going to be boring to an extent.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still going to be good games thrown in there.
Well,
but
so I mean, the opening round of this bracket would have Clemson at number 1 seed playing number 16 seed Western Michigan. I don't think there'd really be any reason to watch this game.
No, other than it would be hosted in Death Valley.
Sure, yeah.
Because the top 8 teams, according to this layout schematic, the top 8 teams host the first game.
That's interesting, because I think I think for some schools, maybe not Clemson, but for a lot of schools, hosting a playoff-style game at the end of the season would definitely draw more fanfare and eyeballs than hosting Georgia State week 2.
No doubt. Yeah, a playoff caliber game is going to draw in tons of people and tons of money. But again, to play devil's advocate here, because I don't think the playoffs should be more than 4 teams, at least for the next 5 to 10 years. Let's say Clemson does play Western Michigan in the first round of this quote-unquote tournament, and let's say on the 4th play of the game, Trevor Lawrence tears his ACL. Well, then all of a sudden, we're not the best team, or we don't have the best player, and let's say we still make it to the championship game, we still have to play Alabama, but we have to play Alabama with a Chase Bryce instead of a Trevor Lawrence. Then you don't have the 2 teams at their best, and that's something that I think Duke basketball fans at Bradley, if you're listening, which he's not because he's playing intramural basketball, but that's what Duke basketball fans would say about their 2 losses to North Carolina in that Tobacco Road rivalry this year, that, hey, Zion got hurt 30 seconds into the first game, didn't play in the second game, so you didn't have both teams at full strength. So I think that would be an issue with playing more games at a higher level. You're going to see more injuries, and you're going to see maybe some other problems too that I'm not coming up with off the top of my head. But injuries for sure would be the big one. And you would hate to see like a Mackenzie Milton, like a career-threatening injury that he had this past year. Exactly. You'd hate to see something like that in one of these games that could have been avoided had you just not played as many games at such a high level.
I still think there's some, like, again, you move on to the next matchup. It would be 8-seed Washington against 9-seed Utah State. And with Jacob Eason going to Washington now, you'd think that the Huskies are going to have a lot of talent on offense. And Chris Peterson's an elite coach. Utah State, though, you don't necessarily, I mean,
they have been quietly one of the best teams in the non-Power 5.
They haven't. Their defense averaged 2.5 turnovers per game last season.
That's a ridiculously high turnover rate.
Yeah. So,
like, if it wasn't for UCF being such a good, like, a mid-major team, I guess that's what you call them in basketball. If it hadn't been for UCF being so good,
Utah State would have got a lot of love.
Yeah, Utah State would have gotten a lot more attention, but it's also that West Coast bias. So how much would they really have gotten? But still, a good non-Power 5 team.
This is a game that you'd want to tune in and watch.
I would.
I think there's a lot of intrigue.
I would. I mean, that'd be a little Pac-12 after dark action, basically, because that game would be at Washington. And it'd probably kick off at 10:30 after whichever one of these other games is on the East Coast, like the next one, Georgia and Michigan. Like, I'm watching both of those back-to-back. I'm not leaving the couch for a while.
Well, interestingly, Bleacher Report actually picked Utah State in this game to move on to the quarterfinals. Yeah, they picked Utah State to win because they felt like the Aggies had more consistency. Huskies are rebuilding, yes. Jacob Eason's coming in as transfer, but I don't know. I think this is more of a coin flip. I mean, you could pick either team, and I don't think you would get too much.
That would be one of the more compelling matchups, especially in the first round, that a proponent of this format would say, hey, look at this good game that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Well, the next matchup, the last one we'll talk about before we cut to break, Georgia at number 4 seed taking on Michigan at the 13th seed. Now, this is a blue blood matchup all day long.
Also, if you're a Michigan fan and you see a 16-team playoff and you're ranked number 13, you're probably not very happy about that.
No, but at least you're in a playoff, I guess. That's some consolation. Where did they have Ohio State? They had them at 5. Yeah, they had them as the
Ohio State was one of the conference champions, so I guess Ohio State would have won the Big Ten. Michigan would have been the at-large bid.
Yeah.
And they're a 13th seed. That doesn't mean they're ranked 13th.
And I would still take Jake Fromm over Shea Patterson.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, it says here in the description that the Bulldogs are just too fast and athletic for Michigan, which I think could be true, but we also thought the Bulldogs were too fast and athletic for Texas, and we saw how that worked out. So this could be one of those surprise, really interesting
Georgia
New Year's 6
has
games.
had Alabama's number, though, so they have the pieces in place.
Georgia would be a team on a mission in a tournament like this because they know if they haven't really gotten the benefit of the doubt in this 4-team format, you put them in this kind of tournament and they could wreak some havoc.
Yes, absolutely. I think going with the Dogs would be a solid choice there. We got to cut to a commercial break. Come back, we'll break down the rest of these theoretical matchups in the opening round of the 16-team playoff. That's next.
Have you ever looked at your carpet after a cleaning and thought, man, what is that gunk and residue they left behind? Do you worry about the harsh chemicals that cleaning companies use that could harm your loved ones? Well, worry no more. Zero Res is the standout carpet cleaner brand you can count on. Their patented no residue cleaning system leaves no man behind on your beautiful home. Call today at 864-588-7300. Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards, it's the right way to clean.
Everyone has someone in their lives that could use a little surprise, a little pick-me-up. You want to deliver those smiles, but who has the time? School, work, and more. Try Urban Nirvana's online gift certificate. Buy and print it right from your own computer. A great way to treat your wife for making all those tailgate preparations, your college student for all the hard work, or mom, just because. Online purchase and print from your computer. Only at urbannirvana.com.
If you missed out on the weekend sale at the Mattress Outlet in Seneca, don't you fret. Through March, the outlet is keeping their prices at an all-time low so that everyone has a chance to save big money. Shop our now larger selection of Serta and Beauty Rest mattresses and take your new mattress home same day. With the lowest prices and the largest selection in the upstate, the Mattress Outlet in Seneca is sure to have a mattress for you. Open 7 days a week, located off Highway 123 across from Chick-fil-A.
Granger Nissan of Anderson is the home of the lifetime warranty. At Granger Nissan, we are all about family, so we are looking for a play ball kid for every Clemson weekend home game. Stop by Granger Nissan of Anderson to register your kid. You don't have to do anything, and nobody's going to pressure you into buying a car. Simply come by and register your kid to stand at home plate and shout, "Play ball." You'll get 4 tickets to the game, and your family and your kid will get an experience they will always remember. Granger Nissan of Anderson, proud partner of the Clemson Tigers.
If you haven't signed up for Seneca's Half Marathon and 5K, you need to go ahead and make a commitment to do it. Whether it's a bucket list, a resolution, maybe you've never thought about running a 5K, but you've always wanted to. Well, you can do it. Sign up today, $25, and you're going to get a great gift bag. Things like a dry fit shirt, a sleeve. If you don't know what that is, you can go online, you can check it out. Also, a buff that goes over your face when it's cold outside running. And we've got some more great prizes to give away, too. Julian Davis is going to be there as the start of the race. Bradley's Jeweler is going to give away a nice prize, and Henry Ramirez is going to be there greeting you with a smile once you finish the 5K and the half marathon and a finisher's medal for the half marathoners. And we got cash prizes. It's Race for the Green. Come on out. Spend St. Patrick's Day with us. March 16th at Schaefer's Recreation Complex. If you want to check out the website, you can do it. Find out more information at www.seneca.sc.us. It's Seneca's Half Marathon and 5K, March 16th. Sign up today.
It's that time of year again when everyone is a basketball fan. Join 105.5 The Roar for Madness and Mayhem at Local Q, Monday, March 18th from 4 to 7. All our hosts will be there giving you all the information you need to fill out your bracket. Mickey, Zach, Brad, Ben, Qualk, Kelly, and Walt breaking down the brackets at the tip-off show, Monday, March 18th from 4 to 7. Local Q on Orchard Park Drive in Greenville. Remember, 21 and older. It's the tip-off show, Local Q on 105.5 The Roar.
Luck is on your side during Aaron's Lucky Days because just $1 gets you started leasing to own a Philips 75-inch TV, a beautiful living room set, a high-end GE washer and dryer, and more. It's really easy with no credit needed, stress-free approvals, and free delivery and setup. From March 11th through the 17th, visit a participating store or Aaron's.com and get started with just $1 during Aaron's Lucky Days. Most stores open on Sundays. Transaction advertised as a rental purchase agreement. Some restrictions apply. See store for details.
Fine Monday evening. Jay Smith, Evan McDowell, joining you from the studios of WCCP. Again, Bradley is MIA this week, Evan, because of the intramural basketball game. Do you know, actually, he's in the Orange League, so he may be playing one of those all-star rosters that everyone has seen on Twitter. What would your score prediction be for that matchup? Do you think they score more than 20?
I think they might. I think, based on what I've heard, apparently
Bradley's team pretty good.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
They're pretty good.
I mean, they have Adam, right? 6'9".
Adam,
He's on the
6'9".
team.
Yeah,
that
our
helps.
roommate Bradley and I live with a fella, Adam. He's 6'9".
That helps a lot.
And he can dunk on just about anybody.
Yeah, I would say so. So I think they'd put up 20. I don't think they'd win, but I think they'd keep it close enough. But if they are playing one of those football team rosters tonight,
I forgot to ask.
I talked to him this morning in class about it, and he didn't act like he knew who he was playing. He just said, "Oh, I'd love to win because we play so and so's team later in the week." He was banking on it being a pretty good game. So hopefully it's going well for you, Bradley.
Yeah, well, we'll see when we get back to the apartment. Well, another special shout out because I was I go to Moe's every Monday and before the show, and I was standing in line, and there was a fella at the far end where you pay at the cash register who was kind of looking at me, and I was like, I don't recognize this fella. And I got to the end, and he asked, he was like, "Hey, are you Jay?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I'm Trey, Tiger Trey, who's called into the show a couple of times." He said he runs the Tigers to Go routes, which is a food delivery service. Is that available for everybody, or is it just a college student thing? I've never used it.
I've used it.
You have?
I have, yeah. It's a pretty handy service. Kind of like,
Is it an app?
DoorDash. Yeah. Oh, well, no, it's a website. It's kind of like Uber Eats, like what they're doing now. Like you can call it Uber. You go ahead and look it up. But it's like a select, like, I don't know, 25 restaurants or so that you can order food through the Tigers to Go website.
Interesting.
A driver will pick it up for you, bring it to you. It's kind of like a pizza delivery, but this is a third-party company.
Hashtag not an ad.
Hashtag not an ad. Yeah, no, we're not. Yeah,
but still an interesting service. And like I said, I ran into Trey and was able to put a face with the name. And he said that, obviously he tunes in on Monday nights when he's making his run. So if you're listening, Trey, it's nice meeting you at Moe's tonight.
Also, if you're listening, Trey, I'm hungry.
Yes.
I don't really care what you bring me. Whatever you're closest to or whatever somebody else is ordering, whatever.
Well, if anybody else wants to get in and talk a little bit about this 16-team playoff, don't forget about those Northland Communication hotlines. It's 864-654-7627. Or if you want to text in, had a couple people text in already tonight. The Health Dare text line is 864-986-1566. And you can always hit us up on Twitter at After Review Show. All right. Let's go back to the playoff thing that we were discussing. I don't really know what to call it. It's like a bracket. It's like a super playoff.
They called it a tournament on the article, but it would definitely be a playoff because it's football.
You know what that reminds me of? I think, and maybe it was just for the Madden games, but I know that you used to be able to, it may have been an NCAA too, you could set up like tournaments and you could like schedule who played who and buy. Did you ever do that as a kid?
What video game is this?
This is NCAA. I know you could do it in Madden. That was what I did all the time in Madden. You could go into Madden and you could set up tournaments, and it would literally be a full league tournament, 32 teams, and you would like bracket them all out, and then you'd have like drafts and stuff, and you could just like whittle. So like I'm the Panthers, let's say, and then like you could either play the other games like Washington versus Buffalo, or you could simulate them. You never did that as a kid?
I definitely did like Dynasty mode.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'd go into Madden and like you could take over a franchise, you could draft the whole roster. I did that, and then you could go in and like customize your schedule, so like you would have a tougher strength schedule. Like I did that. I don't remember there being an actual tournament though.
Maybe that was only in Madden. It may not have been in NCAA.
Maybe it's vaguely coming back to me. I need to pop the old Madden 07 back into the console and whip that back up and get back to rolling. I think I had the Buffalo Bills back then because I like their color scheme and the logo.
I've always been a Panthers fan.
Or the Texans. I like the Texans. Something about that red, white, and blue.
Well, the Texans, they didn't come around until what, 2003?
They were
2003?
01.
Really?
It was early 2000s, maybe 03, but yeah, early 2000s. Of course,
2000s. The Panthers, they became a franchise in 95. They actually played their first season in Death Valley. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I had learned that. I don't remember if it was from you or Clemson Professor. I don't remember, but I did know that.
All right. Next matchup that we didn't get to before the break was 5-seed Ohio State and 12-seed Cincinnati. Now, interesting here because Luke Fickell, coaching at Cincinnati, is former Ohio State defensive coordinator. But realistically, I don't think he's going to take down his former team.
Cincinnati probably won't. And we'll have to scroll ahead to see who Ohio State would theoretically play in the second round of this tournament. But new coach, new quarterback, there could be a lot of question marks up in Columbus. So that might be a closer game than people think because Luke Fickell coming from Ohio State kind of knows what their game plan might be. Cincinnati's a solid team, and like I said, with those question marks at Ohio State, like how is Ryan Day going to do, or how's Justin Fields going to do? I think they've got a lot to figure out, and like we've talked about before, if Michigan and Jim Harbaugh are going to win the Big Ten, it's got to be this year with Ohio State kind of trying to flounder and pick up where they left off, and Penn State, no Trace McSorley, no Saquon Barkley, and no other team in the Big Ten's really posing a threat. So like I said, Michigan's got to take the crown this year. So I think Ohio State, with those question marks and those uncertainties at quarterback and head coach, they probably get past Cincinnati in a theoretical game like this. But the next round, who knows?
Oh yeah, the next round. That would have. That would have to be a great performance across the board for the Buckeyes to advance, because at that point, you'd be advancing to the Final Four. But I think with the fact that Justin Fields is going to be eligible immediately to play this coming season, will definitely help the transition. Because here's the thing, right? Like, we know that Ohio State is going to get top talent under Urban Meyer. We're still really on an Urban Meyer roster at Ohio State. Give it 2 years, and if they're at the same point recruiting-wise, then I'll eat my words and say, okay, Ryan Day is as good a recruiter as Urban Meyer. But right now,
you figure he can't possibly be as good of a recruiter as Urban Meyer, right?
No, but what I'm saying is that even if Ryan Day isn't a top-level recruiter like Urban Meyer is, even if he's not, if they're able to maintain a consistent level of performance, winning 11 games, winning 12 games, winning conference championship, beating Michigan, if they just keep beating Michigan and they just keep winning their conference championship, I don't think their recruiting is going to dip. Even if Ryan Day isn't as good a recruiter.
Kind of like around these parts when a head coach left and the hire was from within, and that new coach, who most people probably didn't know about but had a promising future, stepped in, beat his rival a couple times, won a couple bowl games, won a couple conference championships, and here we are 2 national championships later with Dabo Swinney. So you could see...
And a large portion of the fan base was like, what are you doing when he was hired?
But I think this is more like the Lincoln Riley situation with Oklahoma. It's a safer hire. People know who this guy is. They expect him to do well. So I don't think... I'm not saying Ohio State's going to have a big drop-off, and I think Ryan Day's the perfect guy for that job. I think he's going to do fine. But
it's already premier talent.
Right, and we saw how he stepped in the first 3 games of last year with Meyer suspended, and we thought, they might drop a game to TCU or whoever they played in the first 3 weeks, and they didn't.
Plausible. I don't think anyone really expected him. We talked about that extensively on the show. I remember that, but I think it was just it became plausible. It wasn't likely that they were going to do
like I said, I think he's going to do fine, but
if they're managing double-digit wins, then
he's fine.
They're fine.
If he pulls off the Jim Harbaugh model and wins a couple bowl games and double-digit seasons, he's fine.
What about 6-seeded Texas taking on 11th-seeded Texas A&M?
I love this matchup.
This is interesting.
This is awesome. I mean, this is for the crown of Texas, babe. Like, this is to lay claim to being the best football team in Texas, which is a big deal.
And listen, what Tom Herman's done at Texas is nothing short of miraculous. I mean, they're not on the national stage contending for college football playoffs yet.
But Texas is back.
But Texas is back in more ways than one. However, Jimbo Fisher's era in College Station, after the low to mid expectations, he exceeded.
He's scary.
Yes.
I am like that game, even though we're playing him here this year, that game could end up being the toughest one on the schedule.
I said when he got hired there, I think Texas A&M is going to win a national championship with Jimbo Fisher as the coach. And I still believe that to be true.
With a, 7-10-year contract, something like that? He's got plenty of time to work with.
But so does Herman.
Right.
And this could be...
And Herman's got some really good wins under his belt.
Very, very interesting in-state rivalry for several years to come.
And it could, I was going to say it could determine the Big 12, and then I remembered A&M's in the SEC, so that kind of ruins that, and they aren't going to get to play as often.
And they don't have a yearly...
Not to my knowledge.
It's Texas's main rival is Oklahoma.
Right. And other Big 12. I mean, other Big 12 teams. Because the Big 12, you end up playing everybody, so there's not a lot of room for non-conference action in the Big 12 just because they don't have divisions.
I still think, though, that this would definitely be a game that you would want to tune into. Bleacher Report was picking Texas to survive this one just based off of Ellinger's performance and the offense.
It's not a home game, technically. I mean, even though Texas would be hosting it in Austin, you're still going to have a lot of people from College Station there.
It's an intriguing matchup.
That'd be a great game.
I think so too. I would go with Texas probably just because I haven't seen enough. I've seen 1 year of Jimbo Fisher, but do it for 2, do it for 3, and then I'll start believing. But listen, I'm not discounting anything that he was able to accomplish in 2018.
No, I mean, he almost messed around and beat the number 2 team in the country who went on to win the national championship. He hung with Bama there for a while, almost messed around. They ended up beating LSU in that 7 overtime game, didn't they? I believe.
Yes.
I mean, that game was so long, I forget most of it, but like that was a good. Like they hung with these top programs, but like that tough schedule and the tough schedule they're gonna have to face next year. Like they didn't get taken out to the woodshed, which I think is a lot. I mean, pretty impressive because that's better than a lot of teams would have done, right? I mean, if you had to, if any other team in college football last year had to play Clemson, Alabama, and LSU at any point in the season, but all 3 of them on the schedule, that'd have been rough.
Yeah.
no matter who it is. I mean, it could have been
3 losses.
Yeah, it could have been Ohio State. I think Ohio State probably would have fared worse in those 3 games combined than A&M did. So, yeah, Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher scare me over the next couple years.
There's 3 games left in the opening round. 1 that's interesting, 2 that are not. Oklahoma is a 3 seed taking on App State as a 14 seed. This is a...
Other than Army scaring Oklahoma last year, that game doesn't really...
Is a footnote. You had number 2 seed Alabama taking on North Texas at the 15 seed again.
That's a 60-0
footnote. The only one of intrigue is Notre Dame at the 7 seed taking on LSU at the 10 seed. And let me be honest, because the Fighting Irish's struggles in the playoff, especially against the nation's elite teams, have been on full display. I would pick LSU, and that's what Bleacher Report did.
I would too. I think that'd be the easier, safer pick. I think they're more motivated, more capable of playing on that sort of stage.
They just bring speed and physicality, and they can overwhelm them.
I think so.
Hour 1 is done. Round 1 is also done. When we come back after the break, we will have the second round of this playoff for you. That's next. Stick with us.
Safely in the Priority One studios. We are WCCP, Clemson, Greenville. 105.5, The Roar.
And now, back to After Further Review.
Hour 2 of After Further Review now underway. Man, we have been talking about this 16-team playoff now for a couple segments, and probably talk about it for a couple more, because we've gotten through the opening round of all these matchups, and now we can sink our teeth into the quarterfinals. We're back down to the top 8 teams. At this point, we've got Clemson, Utah State, Oklahoma, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and Alabama, LSU all left. Still 3 SEC teams. Evan, I don't think the Clemson-Utah State game would pose too much trouble for Clemson, but, hey, Boise State would have loved an opportunity to take a stab at a big-time program. Utah State's got to be thinking the same thing.
Oh, no. I mean, the Aggies would definitely be licking their chops for this one, and like you mentioned, their defense last year was outstanding, so I think this game could be entertaining, and I think it could be close. I would not... under many circumstances, see Utah State winning this game.
I just think if Alabama's defense can't hold Clemson's offense back, then I don't think Utah State's defense can hold Clemson's
but a lot of things went wrong for Alabama that day. Let's say a lot of things were to go wrong for Clemson against Utah State. You might see a field goal at the end to win it. And, like I said, who knows? But quick college basketball update, because I know we were just talking about this.
Oh, yeah.
As we came back from commercial, and this kind of pertains to Clemson men's basketball as far as bubble watch. Wofford up 66-57 on UNC Greensboro with a minute left in the second half in the SoCon Conference Championship game. And Wofford has gone on a nice little run over the last few minutes to take what is now a 9-point lead and effectively, and we assume, unless a lot of weird stuff goes down in this last minute, win the SoCon, get an automatic qualifying bid to the NCAA tournament, and that actually frees up space for Clemson to make it, just because Wofford was probably going to make it anyway. So if UNCG had won, that'd be 2 teams in, and there's just a lot going on. But if you're a Clemson fan, Wofford winning this game is good news.
How many ACC teams are projected to make it this year into the tournament?
Oh, man. Well, you figure it's definitely Duke, Carolina, Virginia.
Yeah.
And then I think Syracuse and Clemson might be on the bubble. NC State's somewhere in there.
Isn't it usually 7?
It's right around there again, probably. Definitely not Louisville, I don't think. Maybe Virginia Tech. So, yeah, it'll be 7 or 8. I don't, obviously we're football guys, but somewhere in that range.
Yeah, not necessarily.
I just wanted to give a shout out to the Terriers, because not only are they about to be conference champions, but they're also helping Clemson out in the process.
If they get a win here, they're going to go 29-4 on the season. 19-0 into conference. That's
a nice little resume.
Absolutely. But back to
quarterfinals of the real important tournament.
Yes, the quarterfinals of the playoff that doesn't exist yet. Next matchup would be Oklahoma as a 3 seed taking on Georgia as a 4 seed. Now this could be one of the best games, most competitive games in the whole tournament.
Well, it was in the Rose Bowl 2 years ago, for sure. So if it's anything close to that, we're in for a good time. But it says here that, and it goes through like a little description and a prediction for what this game would entail this coming year, because obviously these teams are going to look a little bit different. But it says, the last line says, it's hard to separate these two teams, but the Oklahoma defense should improve enough to help the Sooners win a close game. I don't think I buy that. Do you? Do you really think Oklahoma's defense would be not only the X factor in this game, but do you really think Oklahoma could beat Georgia in this scenario, in this situation?
I think, okay, if somebody asked me what the best unit on the football field was, I'd probably say Oklahoma's offense.
Even without Kyler Murray? And who knows who's going to be quarterback? Maybe Spencer Rattler?
Because I think...
Maybe Jalen Hurts?
I think Jalen Hurts would be able to command that offense and he may not be the best playmaker on the field for Oklahoma because he wasn't in Alabama, but he's commanding the game. He's limiting his mistakes. That's what he is. That's what his
and he's beat Georgia before.
Exactly. And the last time these two teams squared off, like you mentioned, great game, double overtime. I mean, 102 total points.
Yeah, but you figure that Oklahoma team had Baker Mayfield, who's been one of the better playmakers in college football over the last several years, and they still couldn't get the job done. What makes you think Jalen Hurts can?
I think Oklahoma will outscore Georgia. I don't think Oklahoma's defense prevents Georgia from scoring.
No.
I just think Oklahoma has more weapons on offense.
I mean, they have one of the best, probably the best wide receiver in the country in CeeDee Lamb. So that's going to be a matchup nightmare for the Georgia defense. But I still don't think if Jalen Hurts plays quarterback this entire game, I don't buy that Oklahoma could beat Georgia.
See, what's really interesting, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but in this article, it says that the defense for Oklahoma finished 114th nationally in total defense last season. And they're going to try and tell me that the X factor in this game is their defense?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, it says the defense should improve enough. What does that mean? They're going to jump from 114 to like 80?
No.
Because that would be good. But if they jump from 114 to 108, like, get out of here. That's still a Big 12 defense, and that's terrible. And that's not going to determine the winner of this game.
I think this game's still really competitive and really close. I think it's a must watch. Like, circle it on the calendar. Right. But I don't think the Oklahoma defense is going to be the X factor.
I don't think so either. I think Georgia would win this game.
But
I would take Georgia.
I guess I didn't think Clemson's offense was going to be the X factor in the championship game from the Bay Area this past year.
Really?
I thought it was going to be the defense. I thought a true freshman quarterback was going to have a little bit of jitter. Because here's the thing, right? Taj and Deshaun, as talented and as amazing as they were here at Clemson, there was a tendency, especially from Taj, to kind of get a little jittery first few possessions of a game. Deshaun didn't display this as much, but there were games where Deshaun could get in a funk.
Or he would turn the ball over. He threw a lot of interceptions.
Just not always football smart plays. You haven't seen that really from Trevor Lawrence yet.
You might never, which is scary if you're playing defense against him.
That's the ridiculously scary thing, is I kept sitting here in this chair going, you're going to see a point where Trevor Lawrence is going to look like a freshman. And he didn't. The whole season, he didn't look like a freshman. So
I mean, you could argue that he might have had a moment like that, like when he got hurt in the Syracuse game. Like, he wasn't playing that great up until that point. Like, maybe that was his quote-unquote freshman moment. But that's a stretch.
Yeah. I still think the best freshman season in college football history, but I digress.
Which we keep forgetting to, like, actually research that and talk about it. You keep bringing that up, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I mean,
and
he
might
went
be right.
15-0, and he won a national championship. Like,
hard to beat that.
There's only been one other true freshman to ever do that, and he started 3 games. Wasn't there some stat that I gave Bradley about that? He either started like 3 games or there was something.
Probably.
Yeah, he didn't play the whole season.
I'm just thinking, like, maybe not accomplishment wise, but like statistically, like a Johnny Manziel or a Tim Tebow freshman year.
Maybe not statistically, but
productively, yeah, for sure. As a quarterback,
15-0.
It's also interesting to note that not only was he not nervous, but he's kind of, and maybe this just shows how talented he is, but we've seen in recent years Alabama struggles more with a dual threat type quarterback than just a pocket passer.
Yeah.
Because you've had some pretty good pocket passing talented quarterbacks in the SEC over the past few years.
Yep.
And Alabama hadn't flinched with those guys, but you put a Johnny Manziel, a Deshaun Watson, somebody like that who can make plays with a Kellen Mond even from Texas A&M, like somebody who can make plays with his arm and his legs. Alabama defense tends to struggle with that, and Trevor, not a running threat.
I'm not discounting. Let me just go on the record. I am not discounting the performance put on by Cleveland Farrell and Dexter Lawrence and Christian Wilkins and
Austin Bryant. Well, Dexter Lawrence.
Dexter Lawrence.
He had a nice performance on the sideline.
again, I'm not discounting the performance that those guys. I mean, you look at the pick six. Okay,
that set the tone for the whole game.
I was gonna say the pick six early in that football game not only set the tone, but totally shifted the momentum. So I'm not discounting the defensive performance at all. I was just continually amazed, sitting there in the stands watching Clemson's offense, led by a true freshman quarterback, rout Alabama's defense.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you might not have expected Clemson's offense to be the X factor, but you knew Clemson's offense had to be the X factor. Because I think, at least I pretty much assumed that the defense would make plays. And even without Dexter Lawrence in the middle, I was pretty confident the defense was going to be all right.
Yeah.
Like, the defense was going to be fine. Obviously, they were going to have to make some stops against Tua and that dynamic offense. But the defense, I wasn't nearly as worried about as the offense. Because, to beat Alabama, you got to outscore them, which is true of any game ever. Yeah. But, like I said, I figured the defense could hold them to a manageable score. It was just a matter of the offense being productive enough and staying on the field long enough that our defense wouldn't get tired and we'd be able to put up some points. So obviously I was surprised by the outcome of the game and winning it by almost 30 points, but I was not surprised that it was because our offense played really well that we did end up winning, because that was what was going to have to happen for us to win that game. It was for the offense to show up, and show up they did.
Well, yeah, absolutely they did. All right, so second half of the quarterfinals, you've got Ohio State taking on Texas in what might be the biggest game Texas has played in a decade. A lot on the line there. They're going up against a traditional blue blood. You look at all the program success that Ohio State has had these last few years, the recent program history, and this is a big game for the Longhorns.
Yeah, for them at least, beating Georgia last year, I think, was a big step in the right direction.
Huge.
But if it were to be on a stage like this in a quarterfinal playoff matchup, if you really wanted the Texas is back mantra to ring true, you go out there and you win this game too. Because you shocked everybody by beating Georgia. Nobody thought they were going to beat Georgia. And I think you'd have some people taking Texas in this game, but I don't think very many. But again, with Ryan Day and Justin Fields, if you still got question marks or the chemistry's off or somebody's injured, you can see the experience and the relationship between a Tom Herman and a Sam Ehlinger get in there and come out with a win. Kind of like Georgia, where they smacked them in the face to start off the game and built up a 2 or 3 possession lead, and then just played well enough to not lose. You don't have to play well enough to win. You just got to play well enough to not lose.
But you agree that this game means more to Texas than Ohio State.
I would think so. Although, given the circumstances, like I said, with the new coach and the new quarterback, this could be a way to establish hey, we're still Ohio State. We're still going to come in here and kick your teeth in.
For Ryan Day, you're probably right. It is a huge game.
But yeah, I think as a whole, this would definitely mean more to Texas to win this game. Absolutely. And I think they're capable of it. I think they could.
Oh, yeah, the talent, I think, is in place now for the Longhorns, which is something that I haven't said in almost
no
a decade.
one said that.
Yeah, I haven't said that since 2005 almost, that the Texas has the talent to compete with a blue blood program like.
So I told y'all a couple weeks ago, I'm taking Texas as my way too early Big 12 favorite. And this is part of the reason why, because I think they're capable of winning these big games.
So what about this last quarterfinal game we'll get to before the break? Alabama and LSU. Is there any chance for LSU? Any chance?
I'm going to say yes, just because if this scenario were to unfold, you would assume that the conference schedule probably wouldn't change a whole lot. So LSU and Alabama would have already played once in the season, right? Unless you completely rearrange conference schedules, whatever. But they're in the same division, so they theoretically would have already seen each other once in the year.
Yeah, but you know how these games go. LSU comes in with a very Alabama-esque style of play. The games are physical, they're low scoring, and Alabama always has just a teeny bit more offensive firepower to get the win. Maybe it's a field goal, maybe it's a touchdown.
Not so much this past year. They had a lot more. They weren't even close.
But
again,
LSU they don't change the game plan. They come in with the same mindset every year, and they think that's what's going to be enough to beat Alabama, and it doesn't work out.
If Alabama were to win the regular season matchup of these two teams, I'd probably be more inclined to take LSU. If LSU wins that matchup in the regular season, I'm taking Alabama to the bank every single day, twice on Sunday. Because Nick Saban is not going to lose to the same team twice in one season. That's just not going to happen. He doesn't lose to the same team twice in a calendar year.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, obviously the smarter pick would still be to take Alabama, but I would not be shocked if LSU were to pull this victory off just because they would learn from the first game. Because I think if LSU and Alabama had played again at the end of last year, you definitely wouldn't have seen Alabama win it by 3 touchdowns and LSU get shut out again, right?
See, I just don't have any confidence that LSU can figure it out. They've tried.
Really?
No, they've tried. Look, the last
They just won a New Year's Six game, though. They had a nice little season last year.
They did have a nice little season, and they'll have a nice little season until they get to the quarterfinals of this theoretical matchup, and they will get Alabama. I mean, they'll just get pummeled.
I think it'd be close. I mean, I think you're right. It'd be physical and it'd be low scoring.
The score may be close, but do you really think that it'll ever be intriguing? Do you really ever? Will there ever be a point in the game where you could be sitting on the couch and be like, "Oh my gosh,
see, I think
LSU might win this."
I think this could play out like your classic CBS 3:30 SEC game where it's 14-13 with 1:37 left in the game. Joe Burrow's got to run the 2-minute drill, and LSU with their left-footed Australian kicker knocks in a 38-yard field goal with 3 seconds left to win the game.
Burrow's got to become
16-14.
He's got to become more explosive.
He's got to be more than just a serviceable quarterback, which is all LSU's really had. I mean, probably better than what LSU has had over the past several years. I mean, they haven't had
to do way more.
Exactly. And I think LSU is confident that he's capable of that.
Sure.
And I mean, obviously Ohio State was capable of that, or they wouldn't have recruited him. So I think he's going to be good, but he's definitely got to take that next step, especially if LSU wants to become a Tier 1 program and win games like this and potentially compete for an actual playoff spot, not a theoretical playoff spot, and compete for a national championship like they want to.
I'll be honest, the only game that as I look at these 4 hypothetical matchups, the game I really want to see would be Oklahoma, Georgia. That's the game I really want to see.
Out of all the quarterfinals?
Out of all the quarterfinals. Yeah, I would really, I mean, don't get me wrong. Ohio State, Texas is a close second. I don't think the Alabama LSU is as intriguing as you make it out to be, nor is the Clemson, Utah State.
Clemson, Utah State, for sure, is the least intriguing of those 4 games, without question.
And I'm not saying that as a bias. I just don't think that Utah State...
There's just a much larger gap in terms of talent.
And I think there's a big gap when it comes to LSU and Alabama, but usually those games are more close when it comes to scoring. Like, even though Alabama dominates, it still might be 14-0.
Yeah. I mean, they dominated that game last year, and it was still only, 22-0, I think was the final?
But Oklahoma, Georgia, with the double overtime we saw a couple years ago and the 100-plus points scored.
See, I just don't think obviously the teams have changed, but I just don't think the rosters would be capable of it. I just don't think Jalen Hurts is capable of leading that Oklahoma offense and making it as dynamic as Baker Mayfield.
So you think that's because of the new pieces in place on offense, or you think that's because the defenses are going to... Because Bleacher Report's making out Oklahoma's defense to have some sort of magical turnaround, which I just don't see how... If Oklahoma's defense forgets to show up, you're really only going to rely on Georgia's defense to keep people from putting up points, and I think Oklahoma has enough pieces in place with Jalen Hurts to score a lot.
Well, if Oklahoma's defense forgets to show up, they're still going to give up the same number of points. I don't think Oklahoma's defense needs to be their calling card at all. So what's stopping these
teams from scoring what they scored 2 years ago is what I'm saying.
I think it's the talent level on offense. I think you've seen the running back core that Georgia had established, they're all gone except for maybe DeAndre Swift. I mean, you don't have a Nick Chubb anymore. I mean, you don't have guys like that. Sony Michel, you don't have so your backfield talent is automatically lower than it was. You got a couple wide receivers that I think have been drafted, and I still don't 100% trust Jake Fromm.
He's a junior, though.
But he'll have a good game and then turn around and have a bad game.
Oh, I don't disagree, but he has shown the ability to make clutch plays.
Yes, I agree.
His clutch factors is...
I mean, there's a reason that Jacob Eason transferred all the way across the country was because he knew he wasn't going to have much playing time. I think Jake Fromm's a good quarterback. He's just not consistent.
It's games like this where Fromm gets tested. It's games like this where Hurts gets tested. Whoever emerges victorious from this, I think, would be able to argue that, they kind of turned the ship around.
Yeah.
In terms of their careers.
Well, yeah, and for the teams themselves to kind of round the corner, so to speak, and become one of those top tier teams and in the conversation with Alabama and Clemson year in and year out.
Big win.
Right, because both of these teams recently have been, for the most part, on the outside looking in. They'll make the playoff, but they don't make a whole lot of noise in it, except for Georgia beating Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl and almost winning the national championship. That was nice, and that makes for a nice little empty trophy case. But other than that, Oklahoma and Georgia have been the ones, I would say, two of the main victims of Clemson and Alabama's dominance, especially Georgia with Alabama.
Yeah.
Ed getting it on the text line.
I saw that on the text line. We got to cut to a commercial break, but Ed texted in a score prediction for the Clemson-Utah State matchup. Tigers 72, Utah State 13.
Not like the Louisville game from last year. Probably not far off, honestly, Ed.
No. But with that, we will leave you and go to a quick break.
Are you ready to go all in on a car? Granger Nissan knows what car will fit you and your family because they are a leader in the market with competitive inventory. They have everything for everyone. Granger Nissan is a family business, so they know the importance of taking care of the ones we love on the road. You can drive with confidence and ease because Granger Nissan has all new vehicles with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Granger Nissan is not just in the car business, they're in the people business. Stop by Granger Nissan of Anderson on 3510 Clemson Boulevard.
Brock here with Tom's Barbecue. Are you looking for somewhere for the family to enjoy time together over a nice meal or a place for the coworkers to grab a bite? My wife Beth and I have just the place for you. Our restaurant caters to the working lunch, family time, and everything in between. Nothing beats our 8 homemade sauces, made from scratch sides, and our low and slow southern smoked barbecue. Let Tom's Barbecue be your next lunch destination on the corner of Woodruff and Garlington in Greenville. And make sure to ask about our catering.
Join us at the 3rd annual Big Splash Sales Event at Clemson Marina, extended through Saturday, March 16th. Start the boating season with the biggest boat sales event of the year, with discounts up to $3,000 off select Veranda luxury pontoons, Monterey sports boats, and express fishing boats powered by Yamaha outboards. Talk with reps from Freedom Boat Club, a new concept in boating enjoyment on Lake Hartwell. Enjoy local vendors, a catfish fry from the grill, and kids entertainment, plus demo rides and giveaways the entire day. The 3rd annual Big Splash Sales Event, Saturday, March 16th, 9 until 5. Your chance to save as much as $3,000 off select Veranda luxury pontoons, Monterey sports boats, and express fishing boats powered by Yamaha outboards. Mother Nature moved us to March 16th, 9 to 5 at Clemson Marina on Lake Hartwell. The 3rd annual Big Splash Sales Event. If you missed out on the weekend sale at the Mattress Outlet in Seneca, don't you fret. Through March, the outlet is keeping their prices at an all-time low so that everyone has a chance to save big money. Shop our now larger selection of Serta and Beauty Rest mattresses and take your new mattress home same day. With the lowest prices and the largest selection in the upstate, the Mattress Outlet in Seneca is sure to have a mattress for you. Open 7 days a week, located off Highway 123 across from Chick-fil-A.
Do you really know Joe? He may not be who you think he is, but he delivers consistent product, great hospitality, great atmosphere, great everything, and of course, great pizza. You see, Joe's New York Pizza with locations in Seneca and Clemson doesn't rely on some special gimmick of the month. Joe does great pizza, subs, and fresh salads made with fresh ingredients. That's who Joe is. You know him. He's all about the sauce. Joe's New York Pizza, Patrick Square in Clemson, and Seneca on Highway 123.
90 days. That's how long it takes for the Health Dare program to transform your body and your health. Walt here, and it's hard to believe we're already in March. So 90 days from now is June. 3 months will fly by in no time. Imagine losing a bunch of weight, reversing the symptoms of type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, and sleep apnea in just 3 months. That's what the Health Dare program does. You just need to book your free consultation at idaregreenville.com. The Health Dare 90-day program is not a magic pill or hard diet. No gym memberships. You can even eat carbs and fast food. It's a lifestyle change, and it's easy to do. Their health coaching team and education staff gets behind you all the way. They won't let you lose. Book your free consultation with the Health Dare. Dedicate 3 little months to getting back to health. Do it for yourself. Do it for your family. Make the next 90 days your best ever. Book your free consultation with the Health Dare. Go to idaregreenville.com. That's idaregreenville.com.
And now, back to Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Welcome back to the show. AFR on your radio. Wrapping up this football playoff tournament that we've been talking about now for most of the show. We got 2 games left. Well, 3 if you count the championship, but 4 teams. And in this theoretical tournament, you would have Clemson and Oklahoma in one semifinal. And you'd have Alabama, Ohio State in the other semifinal. Which is a more intriguing matchup, Evan? Because you're saving Clemson-Bama round 5. So which one would you be more interested to watch?
I guess Alabama and Ohio State, because as we've seen recently, Clemson and Oklahoma has not been a close game. And, I mean, you might like to see the rookie coach, Ryan Day, go up against the big dog, Nick Saban. So, like, I don't, maybe that.
But is the coaching storyline the most intriguing thing about this game, really? Not on the field play?
Maybe the quarterbacks. I mean, like Justin Fields.
Nobody's going to pick Ryan Day to outcoach Nick Saban.
No, and I mean, and that's what the article says. But I'm saying that's more interesting than seeing, and it has listed here it says Clemson smacked Oklahoma in both 2014 and 2015, winning by a combined 77-23 margin.
Oh, yeah, but both programs are very different now.
I know, but it's still Oklahoma, which can't beat Clemson, at least not recently.
I think
even all the way back to the Russell Athletic Bowl in 2014?
That was Baker Mayfield.
I know, but do you really think Jalen Hurts has a better chance of beating Clemson with Oklahoma
than it, though?
Yeah, but on an Alabama roster, not an Oklahoma roster.
I don't know. All I'm saying is I can't really compare present day. Like, I couldn't compare this matchup to what happened in 2014 and 2015 because...
But I think for the sake of conversation, you have to.
Oh, sure. People will definitely try and talk it up, and it'll be a talking point on College Game Day, and everybody's going to make a big deal about it, and they'll interview the players, and the seniors will say, yeah, I was there on the team, and it doesn't really matter. This was, good Lord, this was 5 years ago.
So do you expect this to be like a close and competitive game? Like, do you think Oklahoma can actually beat Clemson? Because I don't. I think this game is going to be very similar to the Clemson-Notre Dame game. I think it's a blowout.
I think the problem for Oklahoma with any team they're going to play at this level is their lack of defense. Clemson's offense, we've already seen it. They're going to be able to score against everybody. So Oklahoma has to play catch-up. And Oklahoma, as you pointed out just a second ago, doesn't have the offensive firepower yet, or ever will, while Jalen Hurts is there, to stay competitive with Clemson for all 4 quarters. This may be an interesting game going into the locker room at halftime, but Oklahoma's defense isn't going to do anything in that second half to make this game any more competitive. No. It's just not going to happen.
It's going to be like, if anything, I think best case scenario for Oklahoma in that game, it ends up being similar to the Orange Bowl where the final score makes it look a lot closer than it was because Alabama dominated that game, as we knew they would because they had basically a pretty even offense and a much better defense. And I think that would be kind of similar here, but I think Clemson's offense would be a little bit better because they have, I think, more playmakers, and their defense would certainly be better. So that's why I say best case scenario, if Oklahoma catches Clemson on an off day, the final score makes it look like it was kind of a close game, even though everybody that watched it knew it wasn't. Worst case scenario, I think the Clemson defense shuts Oklahoma down, and this game ends up being more similar to the Notre Dame game, the Cotton Bowl from last year, where Clemson is just firing on all cylinders, and it's essentially a warm-up game to the national championship.
So you're thinking Alabama, Ohio State is more interesting?
I think so. I think it'd be closer, right? I mean, like, maybe more competitive. I just think, I mean, Ohio State's a more complete team than Oklahoma because they have, some inkling of a defense. And who knows, with the way Justin Fields plays throughout the year, they could end up having a better quarterback.
True.
So, and with Justin Fields having, I guess, a little bit of experience being at least on Georgia's roster, he might have some kind of helpful knowledge as far as how to game plan for Alabama. So I think that game could be kind of close or closer than I would expect Clemson, Oklahoma.
It's really hard to say. I think Oklahoma has a better chance of beating Clemson than Ohio State does of beating Alabama. I just don't see any way,
but not by much.
I don't think either are likely, just for the record.
Right.
But I don't see anything from Ohio State to make me believe that they are going to be able to actually stand a chance at beating Alabama. The score may be close. It might be an interesting second half. But I don't think there will ever be a point where we will be sitting there going, oh, Ohio State might win this game. Like we did with Georgia 2 years in a row.
I think there could be maybe 1 point. Like if Ohio State comes out and scores a touchdown, their opening possession, like let's say they lose the coin toss, they receive the kickoff, they march down the field, score a touchdown, go up 7-0. Justin Fields, goes 4 for 60 yards and a touchdown on the opening drive. You might go, hey, Ohio State's got some talent. Like, this game might be kind of competitive, and then Alabama rattles off 21 straight points to end the quarter, and you're down 2 touchdowns.
It's just not fair to ask Ryan Day.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Nick Saban.
I don't think anybody would expect him to, but, I mean, let's say he does, and all of a sudden, this is a little more interesting.
I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Ryan Day yet to make that level of an assumption.
I don't think Ohio State wins the game either. I just think I'd be...
Like Lincoln Riley,
he's a good coach.
He's a good coach.
Good recruiter.
And I think that in a lot of ways, he's kind of mirroring what Dabo was.
Pretty similar.
Younger. And truth be told, I think they're similar in more ways than they're different.
I think if I got the way I would explain how I feel about these two games, if I wasn't a Clemson fan, if I was completely unbiased for all 4 of these teams, and the Clemson-Oklahoma game came on first, I would definitely stick around to watch most of, if not all, of the Ohio State-Alabama game.
Oh, yeah.
But if the Ohio State-Alabama game came on first and I wasn't a Clemson fan, probably wouldn't be as tuned in to the Clemson-Oklahoma game.
Is that because you expect it to not be as close?
Yes, that would be my expectation.
Or because Alabama isn't playing in the game? Because let's be honest, people tune in to watch Alabama play just to watch Alabama play. It's just like the Super Bowl with the Patriots. People tune in just to watch the Patriots play. They don't have no vest. They don't have no horse in the race.
Right, but I'm saying for like me personally, I would be more tuned in for the like competitiveness aspect. Like I would assume the Clemson game to be not as close as Ohio State, Alabama, which I think was similar 2 years ago to when Clemson blasted Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl, and then
that was
whenever it was, the other playoff game that wasn't Georgia, Oklahoma. I guess that was Clemson, Alabama.
That was 2015, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
The last time, no. The last time,
when Georgia and Oklahoma played, it was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago.
I'm saying whatever the other. I think the other game was us in the Sugar Bowl, right?
Yes. I'm sorry.
And I would have assumed the Sugar Bowl to I guess that year probably not have been as close as Georgia Oklahoma. So it's the same concept, I guess, for me. I just wouldn't expect Clemson and Oklahoma to be as entertaining of a game as Ohio State and Alabama.
So we'll agree to disagree there, but I think
I still think Alabama wins the game, though.
Well, I was about to say,
by a lot.
We both have, and Bleacher Report has Clemson, Alabama in the championship, and that's kind of what you mentioned now about an hour ago, how you read through all this, and then you got to the end, and you just felt like it was almost a waste of time because we just got the same result. We had 16 teams, all these conferences, all these at-large bids, all these elimination games, and who we got at the end of the year, end of the season. It's Alabama, Clemson.
Exactly, and that's why I loved the concept of this article, and I loved the details that they provided throughout, and I enjoyed reading the hypotheticals and imagining in my mind some of these games playing out and thinking, oh, that'd be really cool. And for me, at least with this setup and this article and this predicted outcome, the journey was way better than the ending. Like the games that we had to play to get to the national championship, to me at least, carry more of a, maybe not a wow factor, but I'm going to want to watch that factor, as opposed
what we've
to
seen the last couple of years.
Yeah, as opposed to getting to the national championship and then going, all right, it's Clemson, Alabama again, number 1, number 2. Like,
after Clemson
here we go,
dismantled Notre Dame,
right,
and then Alabama.
I mean, Alabama pretty much dominated Oklahoma.
Yeah,
but like I said, it's wasting a lot of people's time and money to just get the same 2 teams. Like, because we could have started this whole thing out under the BCS system, and we still would have ended up with Clemson and Bama. We could have done a 4-team playoff. We still would have ended up with Clemson and Bama. So, I mean, I guess I feel bad more than anything for the Georgias and Ohio States of the world who get a shot but ultimately don't get a shot.
Well, what if you had Clemson and Alabama in the 4th title game since 2015? I mean, the last 2 meetings, it says the last 2 meetings were in favor of Clemson, but that's not correct because Clemson lost the second. They won this past matchup, but the matchup before that, they lost to them in the Sugar Bowl.
Right.
They've traded. It's been tied Tigers, tied Tigers.
Yeah, we're shooting 500 right now.
Yeah.
It also says in the 5-game series. We hadn't played them 5 years in a row, have we?
Yeah, I'm not. No.
Somebody counted wrong.
Yeah, that was incorrect there. But again, in title games, Clemson has the upper hand 2-1, but overall it's split 2-2.
Right.
Because you have to count that 2017 Sugar Bowl semifinal game. And, Trevor Lawrence, you would expect, would be just as phenomenal. Clemson's defense, sure, isn't going to be as stifling as they have been this past year.
Well, they're going to be all right.
Oh, they're going to be great. But they're not going to be all-time great.
Oh, no.
Like defense last year was all-time great. Like,
that's a once-in-a-lifetime defense.
That was all-time. Tell your grandkids about great defense. And the offense was last year able to hang 44 points.
Might end up being a once-in-a-lifetime offense,
no kidding,
too.
because a Nick Saban defense that allowed less than 18 points a game had 44 points hung on them. So that in and of itself was a remarkable achievement.
And in this article, they've got Clemson winning again.
Yes.
So in theory, we would end up going back-to-back, beating Alabama in the national championship for the second year in a row, which I think this outcome, I think is pretty darn realistic.
Yeah.
Because as of right now, on March 11th, who are you putting in the national championship besides Clemson and Alabama?
Nobody. And everybody's picking Clemson.
Right, because of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne
and even
the rest of the offense.
Even after Clemson won in 2016, most people weren't picking Clemson that following season because Deshaun was gone.
And they weren't even preseason number one.
No. And they were like, well, Clemson, they're not going to hang around.
Rebuilding year is what we were slated to have.
A rebuilding year that got us to the semifinal. Kelly Bryant with 12 wins.
That worked out all right. I'll take that.
First-year starter, which I guess now has been broken by Trevor because Kelly set the record for first-year starter wins with 12. Trevor knocked it up to 15.
Well,
right?
He didn't get all 15. He didn't start every game. He didn't start till, week 6?
That's true.
Something
I didn't think about that.
So
That's
probably
true.
not.
That's true. Good point. But still, you would think that Clemson would be just as potent on offense, but still great on defense. Alabama,
still not going to have too shabby of an offense.
Yeah.
And the defense, much like their coaching staff, bring in somebody new, take game and reload.
Closer game than we've seen the last 2 years. Closer game.
I would hope so.
Closer game.
I mean, from a Clemson fan's perspective, I would love to win the game 44-16 again. But from a college football fan's perspective, I would like for it to be a little more competitive.
It's no more than 2 possessions. It's a 14-point game.
At this point, on March 11th, I would agree with you. But once we get into the season and we actually get to see some of not only these new recruits, but also some of these guys, like a Niles Pinckney, get in more on defense just because Christian Wilkins isn't in the way, like that sort of thing. Yeah. And we get a better idea of what this year's team is going to look like. It could be different because, we could have a drop-off or, heaven help the rest of college football if we end up being a little bit better than we were last year just because of the experience factor. You've got guys like Justin Ross who now has played on the biggest stage and is still just going to be a sophomore. And I think that plays a lot into it because we saw, like, with Mike Williams a few years ago, was a good wide receiver, got a season of experience, and then came back and was one of the best wide receivers in the country.
Yeah.
So you could see that from not only Justin, but also from T. Higgins as well. That experience factor plays a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, again, to kind of wrap up this discussion that we've had now for several segments of tonight's show, I think, like you've pointed out a couple of minutes ago, is a great point. The journey to the destination is more exciting than the actual destination because we all agree who's going to be there at the end. There's not really any disparity there.
Well, assuming this prediction is right, because
sure,
something crazy could happen. Like
Absolutely.
Alabama could get beat, but you don't expect it.
Could get beat too.
Exactly.
You just never know. But it's unlikely. And it's probably more unlikely now than it has been in recent years because of the gap in talent across the board between these two schools and the rest of the country. So that's an interesting analysis that Bleacher Report put out this afternoon about their 16-team playoff. We will probably tweet out that link to that article after the show tonight. Would encourage y'all to peruse that, check it out, and let us know what you think. Obviously, we're not necessarily talking about is it feasible to implement, but just, hypothetically what it would look like and how it would play out. But again, the consensus across the board is that Clemson would be able to take home back-to-back national championships after this.
Would you agree that it is more impressive to win a 16-team playoff than a 4-team playoff? If you're Clemson, not like in general, because like obviously if Utah State were to run the table and win the national championship, that's pretty darn impressive.
I don't know. It depends on who they're playing. I mean, in this scenario, they're going to play Western Michigan, Utah State, Oklahoma, and Alabama. So they really are. I mean, if they were playing
you have like 4 games though.
Yeah, but you're cutting into your regular season. If Clemson had to play, if Clemson was playing like Texas A&M, LSU, Oklahoma and Alabama, hands down.
Gauntlet right there.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Because you figure all of those games are probably taking place within a month's worth of time.
No, that would just be ridiculous. But I still think that they would have done more than enough. Anybody in this scenario would do more than enough to deserve that national championship title. But take a quick break, last break of the show. We come back, wrap up some miscellaneous news stories from this past week. Stick around.
With the Quicksilver card from Capital One, you earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase. Unlimited? Unlimited? Unlimited! 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 Any way you say it, earning unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase just sounds good. Capital One. What's in your wallet? What's in your wallet? What's in your wallet?
Capital One Bank USA, N.A.
Brock here with Tom's Barbecue to let you know about our catering services. Tom's Barbecue caters to many corporate events and wants to help your business boost morale with a great meal to guarantee that your employees leave work happier and fuller. Choose from any of our catering packages or pick a la carte from our menu. You will even receive 25% off of your first order when you mention WCCP. So what are you waiting for? Call 864-288-2652. Tom's Barbecue at the corner of Woodruff and Garlington in Greenville.
You're scared. You cannot pay your credit cards. You cannot pay your medical bills. Someone suggests to you debt consolidation, combining them all in one payment. Can you really afford that? Is there something else you can do? Call me and see if bankruptcy can help you. Call me, Robert King. Together we will look for a thoughtful solution to your legal problem.
Thompson & King, 300 South Tower Street in Anderson. Call 222-0200 or online at thompsonking.com. Thompson & King is a debt relief agency helping people file for bankruptcy under the Bankruptcy Code.
Hi, Tiger fans. For the past 3 years, you've given Engineer Sleep Mattress Company your strong support and helped their business grow tremendously. They wanted to take a moment to simply say thank you. Thank you for supporting a local business. Thank you for supporting this radio station. And thank you for telling your friends and family about a great place to buy a mattress. If you're not sleeping well, then make 2019 your year to get some great sleep. Go visit Engineer Sleep Mattress Company in Greenville.
This is George Jeffries again with Metal Building Supply in Piedmont. Do you have nuts? Well, we do, and bolts, panels, trims, and all the accessories you would need to do that shed project or roof on your home. Give us a call and talk to Kevin Brown. We can offer the names of contractors in the area and help you with the materials you need to solve those problems on your commercial building or your home. That's Metal Building Supply, 1500 Elrod Road, just off exit 39 and I-85 in Piedmont, or call 295-0506 and ask for Kevin.
The 2018 model blowout sale rolls on at George Coleman Ford, where cars cost less than Travelers Rest, like a Ford Escape Titanium with leather and moonroof. Suggested retail at $36,175. Sale priced at just $29,999. We're talking great deals at George Coleman Ford, with 4 generations of Colemans taking great care of you. The 18 model blowout sale at George Coleman Ford.
Everyone qualifies. Offer good through April 4th, 2019.
Hi, I'm Dabo Sweeney. One of the things that makes me proudest about being the head coach at Clemson is participating in the most exciting 25 seconds of college football, running down the hill after rubbing Howard's Rock. The roar from the crowd is deafening. Even though Howard's Rock is one of Clemson's most prized possessions, most of the time it sits all alone. That's why we depend on Priority One Security's video surveillance to keep Howard's Rock safe and secure.
See us on the web at PriorityOneSecurity.com. That's priority, the number one, security.com.
Blue Marble Deli in Seneca offers hearty sandwiches on fresh baked bread, soups, salads, delicious sides, desserts, and more. Open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit Pub Blue next door from 4 to 11 p.m. for nighttime entertainment, live music, pool tables, darts, 20 craft beers on draft, and gourmet pub food. Visit BlueMarbleDeli.com for more information. Blue Marble Deli and Pub Blue, 864-280-6717. 286 Market Street in Seneca, next to Los Amigos. You haven't tasted fresh like this.
Final little few topics that we mentioned this week. I guess we'll start with news that Fox has hired Urban Meyer and Reggie Bush to their college football broadcast team. Evan brought this to my attention earlier this afternoon. Now, Urban Meyer, from what I understand, still has a role within the athletic department at Ohio State. It just is non-coaching related.
Yes.
I think he still has some sort of role.
He's teaching the class.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, and it's some like cybersecurity ethics. He's teaching. I think there's some class.
I don't know.
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure he's teaching the class.
But yeah, so Urban Meyer and Reggie Bush on their studio panel, which includes host Rob Stone, former Notre Dame quarterback Brady Quinn, and Reggie Bush's former teammate Matt Leinart, quarterback at USC. This new college football Saturday morning pregame show is going to air on Fox for 1 hour. I don't think they've picked a start time. I imagine it would be from 11 to 12.
That would make sense in my mind.
I don't know why they would do it any earlier than that. We were actually talking about this before we went on air for a few minutes, and it had to do with College Game Day, which is ESPN's premier college football pregame programming, and how I'm of the opinion that the 3-hour show is a tad long. Evan says he likes it. They do throw in a lot of great segments there with like the heartwarming stories or specials about players or coaches on the team that's being highlighted that week. But I don't know. You think a 1-hour show could steal some viewers, condense the information down?
No. Especially, I mean,
there's too much pageantry around College Game Day.
Well, that, and I mean, it doesn't matter what network you're on, but like, especially Fox, which like Fox Sports, like to their credit, like they do a good job. But yeah. I mean, if there's an athletic event on CBS or ABC or ESPN, like those events tend to be, I don't know, better. I don't know.
I think I don't think ABC or NBC do as good a job on the production end as Fox or CBS.
I think Fox does a good production job. I just don't think there's as many people watching. Because when people think sports, for some reason, at least what I do, I don't think Fox.
World Series is on Fox. Obviously, NFC is on Fox.
I mean, they usually have like the Panthers or the Falcons or somebody.
Let's see, NASCAR. Packers. NASCAR has contracts with Fox, NBC, and ESPN/ABC, so they're kind of across the board. But there's at least a couple other things that are exclusive to Fox that are slipping my mind right now.
But historically, Fox doesn't steal a whole lot of viewers from ESPN. Right.
No, and the fact that ESPN is now part of the ABC Disney umbrella isn't going to help.
Right.
But, yeah, you're right. I mean, historically, I guess Fox hasn't dominated in that area. But, I mean, it's a pretty good cast of guys they've got.
It'll be entertaining. It'll be what are they going to say this week? Because you've got, that's a wide range of people there. I mean, you've got your questionable characters with Urban Meyer and Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
And then you've got Matt Leinart, who I think is just kind of a cool guy. He seems like he's a pretty good broadcaster. And then there's Brady Quinn, who's your typical Notre Dame snooze fest. Like, how many people tune into a broadcast and are like, oh boy, I'm excited Brady Quinn's on the call today, you know?
I still think, though, that because you look at ESPN's crew, Chris Fowler, I think, did an amazing job.
He did.
Chris Fowler was a fantastic host.
Well, I think that's another reason that this show, at least immediately, will not rival Game Day. It's just because of the history that Game Day has.
Oh, sure. And that's not to say
30 years?
That's not to say that Reese Davis isn't doing a great job.
No, he is.
Reese Davis is doing a great job, too. But, the shoes that he's filling of Chris Fowler's, I mean, Chris Fowler was legendary at that position.
I don't think anyone else would have been more capable of filling those shoes than Reese Davis.
100% agree
like, that
with
was perfect. Fill-in.
But it goes to your point that the continuity of Game Day with, Kurt and Coach being there for so long.
And more recently, like David Pollock, Maria Taylor when Sam Ponder left.
I'm not a huge fan of anybody except those.
I love David Pollock. I'm glad that they're grooming him to kind of take over that fourth main spot when Lee Corso finally goes 100% senile.
Not as big a Pollock fan. If it's not about Georgia or defense, it's just
he's good. I mean, he's like Kirk. I think he's kind of Kirk was an offensive guy, obviously.
Yeah.
I know Ohio State guy, I should say. But I think Pollock's very similar to Herb Street. I like him.
So you think he'd stick around for a long time? Is what you're saying?
I think Pollock would. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do as far as the headgear and some of the entertainment factor that Lee Corso brings. I'm not sure what they're going to do when he finally gets around to retiring.
They tried Mac Brown. Yeah, not on game.
That's going from bad to worse.
I like Mac Brown. I think he's a good person. I think he means well, a genuine guy. But they tried him in that because you know who was I honestly must watch TV. I mean, he was the reason I watched halftime shows.
Mark May,
Lou Holtz.
No, he was the reason I would not listen.
No, man, I had to tune in just to hear.
Because that was Chris. It was Chris Fowler, Lou Holtz, and Mark May.
No, it was Reese Davis.
Was it Reese?
It was Reese Davis.
See, those two were great. Reese and Mark. Were
Mark
great.
May was fantastic.
I loved Mark May. Lou Holtz would drive me bananas.
Watching Mark May and Lou Holtz interact was the highlight of my Saturday afternoons. And Reese Davis got a front row seat to all that. I was very jealous. But
I loved Mark May and I loved Reese Davis. I thought, both of those were like consummate professionals.
Point goes back to Mac Brown didn't really fill the shoes that Lou Holtz kind of. Lou Holtz is, if you hate him, but he was an eccentric character. It's just just like Dickie V or Lee Corso. They're eccentric guys. They're entertaining to watch, even if you don't always agree with what they're saying, or B,
there's an entertainment
they're
factor
intelligible
involved.
At all.
Sure.
It's completely entertaining, and that is a good point about this panel that Fox has put together. There's no one guy that kind of sticks out as the guy that's going to be really entertaining.
No.
And off the cuff.
And that's another.
And that's what you need.
I mean, that's another problem is because Corso's been doing it since day one. It's whoever it is, like, it won't be the same.
compared to Corso. And it's not a fair comparison.
And maybe they shouldn't even, continue the headgear or try to do anything similar to what Corso. Maybe just blow the whole thing up and do it differently because you're certainly not going to be able to do it the same, But I don't think that this new Fox show,
You think there's a potential for Fox to poach some ESPN, studio guys, like Adnan Virk?
With the number of layoffs that ESPN has had, maybe somebody like that, but they're not going to steal somebody that's currently working.
You know what? I'm thinking of maybe Kevin Nagandi, because I think Adnan Virk recently got fired from ESPN for linking.
He was the one who got fired.
Adnan Virk was the one who got fired.
Nagandi's usually the one they go to in the studio.
Jesse Palmer, he's with the SEC Network now full time, isn't he?
I thought he was ESPN because every now and again you'll turn on a game, just on a random Thursday night.
He does the SEC Network game day, quote unquote, college game.
But I think he's still employed by ESPN.
Paul Feinbaum
and Tebow.
Tebow, yeah.
See, I think that show probably is going to do better than whatever Fox is trying to put together here.
That's because the SEC, man, just means more.
It does. SEC speed kills.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see.
I don't have high hopes for it, and I'm not going to personally care about it.
No, so. I mean, we'll have to see how when all the final details are announced and give it a season or two. Obviously, they're going to have some kinks that they need to iron out, but we'll move on from that and talk about some win total projections for top programs in college football. This came courtesy of Brett McMurphy.
5 minutes left in the show. We're finally getting to something that's actually going to happen next year. We've been talking about hypotheticals and intangible stuff. This is what's actually going to happen.
Prime off-season material.
It is. It's an art form coming up with stuff to talk about 6 months removed from the start of football season. And not to pat ourselves on the back, but I think we've done a pretty decent job. Just me.
Well, Brett had win totals via Bet Online, which I think is a sports book, and they've been churning out win predictions since 2001. Alabama and Clemson both had 11. Georgia, and this is for regular season.
I would assume.
Just for the record, this is for regular season. Georgia was 10.5, Ohio State 10, Oklahoma 10.5, UCF, Washington both 10. Everybody else was 9.5 or below. You think Clemson drops a game in the regular season this year?
Statistically speaking, probably, because it's hard to go undefeated.
Vague word, probably. There is no more vague term than
I know,
probably.
I love it, because it could mean yes, it could mean no, and either way, you can't hold me accountable. I love the word probably.
There you go.
It's hard to go undefeated, and it's hard to go undefeated 2 years in a row.
Yep.
So that's why I say the odds probably aren't in our favor, especially with A&M coming to town and the South Carolina game being in Williams-Brice this year. I don't think we lose it, but just for the sake of argument,
we've made the national championship game. I just want you to think about this. Okay, we've made 3 national championship games in our time as students here. Twice, we made that. We advanced to the national championship game 14-0.
That's crazy.
Twice.
That's crazy how far Clemson football has come in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
Like that's
does that not blow your mind?
That if you had a time machine and you would like if you would come to 2019 and you had then gone back to like 2006 when Evan was 10 years old and a big Clemson football fan, and you had told him, hey, over the next 13 years and for the time that you're there as a student, oh, by the way, you're going to be a Clemson student. Here's a spoiler from the future. Over the time, like, you're there, like, you're going to make the playoff. Oh, by the way, the playoff's going to be a thing. Like, there would have been a lot of problems with jumping ahead and telling 10-year-old Evan all this stuff.
Yeah.
But to tell 10-year-old Evan that Clemson would have gone undefeated and won 2 national championships in his time as a student, like, I'd have cried. I did, but I would have anyway.
They've played in 4 national championships in program history now. 3 times they've gone into that championship game undefeated. Against Nebraska in 81, against Alabama in 2016, and against Alabama in 2018. I mean,
pretty good ratio.
You know what? I think last year me is like, there's no way that Clemson goes undefeated. They're going to have to drop a game. It's just statistically, like you said, it's likely that they're going to lose. But man, after that performance this past season, I just don't think there's anybody that can beat them, and I'm hopeful. There's a better chance that Clemson goes undefeated
than they don't.
Really? Yeah.
I would.
Am I crazy? I mean, I don't think I'm crazy, man.
Maybe. I mean, that's just how hard it is to go undefeated and to replicate that level of success. Like, we went 15-0 last year. That's the first team to have ever done that under the playoff format, and we've had the playoff for 5 years now.
It's the first team to do it in modern college football history.
Exactly. Like, that's how hard it is.
Yeah.
So that's why I think if I were to bet on Clemson winning 11 regular season games, I'd probably bet the push, like the exact number. I'm not going to take the over because I don't think we'll go undefeated.
Who'd you have them losing to? Would you have them? Well, okay, here's the question because we got a minute left.
Okay.
Would you have them losing to a team they shouldn't lose to? Like, just out of the blue? Or is it going to be, oh, this is definitely a close game, circle it on the calendar?
Somewhere in the middle. It'd be like, probably, I mean, not...
Another vague, probably answer.
I love it. Hold me accountable. I'm not right, I'm not wrong. But, like, even though Syracuse is losing Dungy, like, that's a team that I think... Under the right circumstances, and especially since we have to play them in the Carrier Dome this year, like they could be capable of winning that game. A&M could come on the road, and Jimbo Fisher could, have our number, and they're capable of winning that game. So I think it's probably a game that, like the week leading up, we'd go, yeah, we might lose that game. I don't think it'd be a complete shock. It wouldn't be like a Virginia
the win streak is going to come to a close at some point. I mean, we are going to lose a game down the road at some point, whether it's not this coming season, it's probably the season after that. But we're out of time. Been so much fun bringing you this edition of After Further Review. Thanks for tuning in. For Evan and myself, we will see you next time.